A fantastic day, viewers, parents, students, and teacher. What a fantastic day. Before anything else, let me introduce to you our team, Fanta Talks, wherein we discuss, learn, and reflect on important topics. Today, I am very excited with our today's discussion. How about you guys?
Yeah, definitely so excited. I'm really into this kind of conversations.
That's amazing.
can
How
also wait. I can also wait to learn more things about this new topic that we're going to discuss today.
how about you,
Me,
Jin?
I'm also very excited because there's a lot of I think there's a lot of lesson that we will get in this today's topic.
Yes, I
Right.
agree. So now we will talk about a fantasy film entitled Luca. And wait, there's more. We have a special guest. So without further ado, let's get started.
We can go anywhere, do anything. We just gotta stick together.
We underdogs have to look out for each other, right?
Underdogs.
Tu sei l'amore,
This is gonna be the best summer ever.
amore. Io sono felice
We'll ride down every road,
accanto a te.
see the whole world together.
Ogni sera arriva il
It'll be
mare,
amazing.
arriva il mare, solo
But there's just one thing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait! Did you see that?
No one can find out.
Please don't take my sunshine away.
Where did you boys say you were from?
Okay, guys. So, what do you think about the Lucas movie?
Oh yeah, I really like the Lucas movie because it talks about the life of different kids. They have they are living different lives. So Luca and Alberto and then Julia has Luca, Luca itself, the movie has three parts, and it's really interesting to talk about that wide variety of topics. How about the others? How about you,
Yes.
Sydney?
Yes, I agree with you, J Lord. Actually, I like Alberto and Luca's friendship. So these two personalities make growing realizations of their journey. For example, Luca is afraid to go to his comfort zone, okay, because his parents are afraid to be judged by ordinary people. On the other hand, Alberto is an outgoing, adventurous person because he sometimes takes things seriously and it's all about having fun and a trait that stay solid within him through the entire film. So which is very significant characteristic of Luca and Alberto. That's why I really like their friendship. How about you
True.
guys?
I believe with what Sydney have said. So the theme revolves around keeping secrets from loved ones, like running away, exploring, and being oneself. So it also includes hiding one's personality from society after being afraid of the aftermath. So like what we say they have said, the ending of the Luca, it tackles a lot of meaningful and idealistic oneself and the personality of society that includes within. So, thank you.
Definitely.
Yes,
Definitely, I agree. But then for me, what I really love the Luca film is the love specifically, and one of my favorite scene in the
Yes,
movie
yes.
when Luca's mother always tell this to Luca. I don't know if you remember this phrase, but the phrase is look me in the eye and I love you, right? And it's just very comforting, especially if those words comes to your loved ones, right? And
Yeah.
I just realized that that's why their Luca's parents is very strict, or they forbid Luca to go onto the surface because they love him. They just want him to be safe and out of danger. And at the end of the movie, the scene where Luca are going to school, do you remember that?
Yeah.
I really love this scene because before he ride the train, he looks at his mother and he uses his mother's phrase, which is the "look at me in the eye. I know, I love you, right?" And I think
Yes.
it's their way of saying, "You know me. I know what's best, and I know what I'm doing." And he will get proud at Luca because he knows what he's doing and he still chases his dream no matter what, right?
Definitely, Jin, no? Actually, if I'm going to apply it to my own perspective or to my own experience, I also have a strict family where whenever I go, they really ask me about everything, every single details, who am I going to be with, and then, it's really suffocating sometimes. But you also have to understand the feelings of your parents. They are
Parents.
just, they are just, want you to
They
be
are
safe.
only caring for you.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a kind of the movies an eye opener for the young ones or this generation where
Yeah.
they feel like it's so suffocating. My parents are always for me to go out with my friends, But then
Party.
this movie will get you realize that the love of parents, they only want you to be safe. But then you cannot blame them. Their feelings is justifiable, no?
Yes.
They're human.
Agree.
I also believe that this movie is not only an eye opener to the children, but also to the parents itself, because they will be able to know what their child is feeling about. So this movie will help not only children but also parents. So in a sense, generally we can learn a lot of things from this movie, Luca. So yeah.
Yes, I agree. And also,
Yes.
like what Jean said, the last statement, which is you will get proud of Luca. Yes, we will be proud of Luca because Luca struggles to make a deep friends or while trying to find his purpose in a world he's never experienced. Right? So it's very
True.
amazing that, his friend trying to push him.
Alberto.
Yes, Alberto
Yeah.
trying to push him that you can do it, that you can
Yeah.
push it onto and you can find yourself. So at the end of the day, something like that you will be at the moment that you succeed. Something like that.
Yeah,
Because you're
you are not afraid of.
exactly.
Yes, they're coming out of their shells.
Yeah.
They're doing
Definitely. Truth. Because they are growing up, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
Teenagers.
so I think the overriding message of Lucas' ending can be summarized by the old adage. So they said that if you love something, let it go. If it comes back to you, it's yours forever. If it doesn't, then it was never meant to be. So sooner or later, parents need to let their children explore the outside world in order to blossom into the person they are supposed to be. So like Lucas' parents arranging for him to go to school is actually an act of love. And so
Yes.
it's Alberto setting the best spot to pay for Lucas' train ticket. So I
Yeah.
think this is really the best thing for me.
Yep.
So
Definitely.
it is an act of love, and it is not some kind of you can pay for, you know.
And you can never find another Alberto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alberto, one and only.
very supportive, He pushes
Where are you,
time.
Alberto? We need someone like you. Sell
Alberto,
your-
We all need Alberto.
where are you?
Alberto is Alberto
you know,
is a walking green
some
flag.
people, I just want to share that there are times in our life that we have fear, and those fear forbid us to doing something that we really want.
Yeah,
know,
you conquer.
Yeah, but then there's Alberto. I mean, if there's Alberto in our side, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
no,
do
of
everything,
course.
right?
Yeah.
There's someone
Someone
supporting
who-
you always.
Yes. Like
I love Albert.
someone who can push you off your limits. Like
Yes.
that's what they said.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think we need to be a human mermaid just to find another
A sea
Alberto.
monster. Yes, exactly. So,
Uh,
this one, I think this question is very significant to our viewers. That would you recommend this movie film?
Actually, yes, I will definitely recommend this movie because um when based on the perspective of Alberto, I'm going to talk about Alberto. Alberto, his life is really hard because he's living alone. His father told him, Alberto is having a hard time living his life because um you know his father, Alberto's father, left him just because his father, I think, is what they call that, adventurer.
Yes.
Yes, he's going to another city just to live his life, or maybe looking for another lover just to live another life, without having Alberto, because I think Alberto's dad is kind of what do you call that in English? I think it's in Tagalog it's called pabaya. They understand my yeah. And I really hate his father for doing that. Alberto's feeling is he's like depressed. After Luca betrayed him, he go to his what do you call that? The tower.
Okay, just to add on that, when I found out that Alberto is not really with his father, it's so sad, no?
True.
He's hiding his feeling, and when
His
he
pain.
met Luca, he
The
kind of
happiness. He found the happiness.
found happiness. Yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly.
missing
And
piece
then,
of his life.
as what you have mentioned, when Luca betrayed him,
Yeah.
it's sad. But then I am proud of Luca. When he betrayed
proved.
Alberto.
He proved himself. He proved himself that he's really sorry about what happened. About saying that Alberto is the only one that is a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
He
about
really
you,
accept
Hannah?
his fault, no?
Okay, so Luca talks about the allegory for those who are afraid to leave their bubble, the friendship, and about following one's dreams. So it also a lesson for parents who are overprotective for their children of how their fears and apprehensions often stand in the way of their children's glory. So if you're afraid to step outside the box, have strict parents, afraid of following your dreams, then I believe that this movie is meant for you, and I really recommend this movie for you to watch it.
Wow. Yes, I definitely
What
agree
about
with you. And I love you. I love what you said.
Definitely,
Yeah.
this movie is very recommendable because it has a lot of lessons about family, friendship, love, and it has a lot of lessons, as I have said, and it's a 10 out of 10. I will definitely
Wow.
recommend it to someone.
Yeah, definitely 100 over 10. How
Me
about you,
too.
Sydney?
I think this is a great movie, animated film that really tackles, friendship, life experience, journey, adventure, and your outing or comfort zone. So I really recommend this movie because there's a lot of hidden message that you can adopt or you can understand and analyze. So I really recommend this not only for the kids, also for the adults, like
Yeah,
for us.
for the
Yes.
parents. Yeah.
Yes, that they can
So
Parents.
young at heart.
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
So that
yes,
they will know their actions if they are suffocating their children or not.
yes,
It
exactly.
it's different when you love someone. You have to just love them,
Yes.
not control them.
Yes. And
Yes.
and
definitely.
also yes, it also, even though it's fantasy film, but there's a lot of learnings that we can understand. That's
Yeah,
why we
it unravels, right?
yes, right. That's why we need fantasy in our life, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah,
And
we
actually, we could relate to some situation.
yes, I agree.
definitely. Also, if you are kind of lonely, you can also watch Luca because Alberto, he finds someone to be with, and if you are alone, What are you doing? Don't be alone. Don't just talk on your box.
Find
Find
friends. What
someone.
if
Yeah,
you
find
found some
friends.
Alberto,
Yes.
diba?
Definitely, yes.
Don't sit
Find
in
some
your
Alberto.
comfort zone.
Yeah,
Be
Agree.
explorer.
find
Yes,
friends. Find friends. If you
yes.
can
Find
find one,
no, find Alberto. Joke.
Agree.
Kidding.
Agree. I agree with that. So,
As
wow.
what they
Yes.
said, we only live once. So yeah.
yes, definitely. I really love Luca, and I'm going to recommend this to all of you. So if you want more, stay tuned. Okay, guys, stay tuned.
Yes. So,
Stand by.
stand by. So, after this one, let's watch this.
Welcome to the Fanta Talks podcast event. To our viewers, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And before anything else, let me introduce myself and my co-host. My name is Jean.
I am J Lord.
I'm Hannah.
And my name is Sydney. So, okay. So now, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Miss Jean, for a wonderful introduction. So let's all welcome our special guest, the one and only. Okay, she's a licensed professional teacher who holds a baccalaureate degree in education, major in English. So graduated in Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. And also, she is currently pursuing her final academic requirements in Master of Arts in Education with specialization in English, language teaching, and literature. So at the Philippine Normal University. So wow. In addition, yeah. So in addition, Miss Charmy is currently teaching at San Nicolas 2 for senior high school students. So she has been teaching for 7 years at different levels where she facilitates general education and English courses. So let's all welcome Miss Charmy T. Del Mundo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Sydney. And I'm so grateful that I was invited by Sydney to have a talk with you regarding the fantasy literature.
Thank you so much, ma'am. How are you today, ma'am, Miss Charmy?
I feel fantastic because after, experiencing a lot of hurdles because of this pandemic, now I've been talking as well. I've been having my talks with different schools, different students, facilitated by different schools. Yeah, oo. And it's not only for college students, but different levels as well. So now I'm happy to talk about literature because I've been teaching oral communication and reading and also research before. So that was way back when I was teaching in Perpetual, Molino. But now I'm teaching already 21st century literature. So I think it's also relevant. And it just so happened that, I'm teaching 21st century and you're asking me about a genre of literature. So I feel really wonderful today. Mhm.
Wow, thank you so much, ma'am. That's why we're really thankful that you agreed to our today's discussion.
Thank you, Miss Charmy. Okay. So
Before, yes. So before anything else, I have a question. How do you cope up with today's pandemic, Miss Charmy?
I've been in a process of accepting that there will be lockdowns again. Okay, so I think the realization of knowing the issues and also getting information from true and not fake news, true news, real news
Yes, po.
is very important for us to be aware of what's happening around. And being aware of the situation can help us also accept the reality that is happening around us. And also, I've been taking care of myself now more than ever, more than before, because before I was really busy, just busy doing a lot of work. And now I've been relaxing, from time to time. So that's how I actually go on and try to establish myself as a teacher and as a wife, as a daughter as well. So doing a lot of roles and there.
Wow, it's really nice to hear that you're doing really great with your life now. How about my co-host? How do you guys cope up with today's pandemic?
Okay, I'll answer this one. So thank you, J Lord and Miss Charmy. Yes, actually I agree to Miss Charmy. So this pandemic is really hard for us. We have anxiety, we overthink, and we have
Truth.
yes, and we have different coping mechanism. So, and one of those mechanism I consider is really watching fantasy film. Okay, like Luca film. So this is animated film with fantasy genre with unravel imagination of a person. So it's really helped me personally to watch this kind of
Wow.
movies. Yes.
Yes, actually, I've been doing the same thing too because, um, when we have a lot of free time after doing a lot of workloads, we used to have, um, you know, uh, give some time for ourselves, like watching movies. And I really love watching fantasy movies because that's my one of my favorite, genre
Yes.
aside from romance. And then so I'm watching a lot of fantasy and animated films such as Harry Potter, rewatching Lord of the Rings and such. Yeah. How about you, Miss
Jean.
Jean?
So we're all doing the same thing, guys. So just recently, I've watched the fantasy movie Disney film, the Encanto. So it has a lot of lesson, like Luca. They have the same plot, I guess. It's because magic.
Yes. Yes,
Agree,
yes.
agree.
Truth.
How
How
about
about you,
Han?
Miss Hannah?
Same thing. I This past few days I've been reading all of kinds of the fantasy books, and currently I'm reading fantasy books today.
Wow.
So I'm being I think this helps me cope up with our situations right now because it helps me to escape from reality. We all know that we're in pandemic, so we cannot go outside. So um, with the help of fantasy, we can be imaginative and be in outside. So
Yes,
Truth.
agree. Okay.
Wow, so it's so connected to today's topic. So today's highlight is fantasy, and we're going to dive into the world of fantasy. We're going to learn more about fantasy. So, Miss Charmy, we have a list of questions that we will ask you to assist us in distinguishing what fantasy is. Exciting.
Yes, it
So
is.
let's take a look with Hannah's objectives.
So before everything, let me present to you our four kinds of objective in today's discussion. So first, we have appreciate and understand the fantasy genre in literature, and to understand the concept of look of film movie, followed by to correlate the fantasy genre in movies and identify what subgenre is, and lastly, to tackle issues that are current and relevant in our today's society.
Ooh, really exciting, right?
Exciting. I agree. So I also want to add that these objectives, it will help us as a student and a teacher, a future teacher, to appreciate and understand the fantasy genre in literature. So like what Miss Charmy said, or she mentioned that she teach this one English literature. So it's very
Sure.
exciting. It will be insightful discussion for us. So how about others?
I really like the objectives of Hannah. It's really exciting because I really wanted to um, understand and to dig deeper from the movie Luca.
How about
How
you,
about
Jane?
the others?
So I also find this interesting since it mentioned that it will tackle current issues that are relevant in today's generation. So I'm very excited with our discussion for today.
For me, this is very kind of exciting also because we have to correlate the fantasy genre in when it comes to the Luca film movie, and somehow we can identify what made Luca a fantasy genre. So it really is exciting, and for we have to tackle a lot of issues today.
True. And I'm really excited about that.
Okay, so before we proceed to our third, for our questions, are you all ready?
We are
Yes.
born ready.
How about you, Miss
Yes.
Charmy?
Yes, can you say that again? Because my line is cutting on and off.
Okay po. But
I'm
can
sorry.
you
Can
see
you
the
can you say
screen
that?
po?
Miss Charmy, are
Hold
you
on.
ready for upcoming questions?
Yes, yes. You can throw the first question now. Yes.
Okay, so let us proceed with questions and answers and discussion. Okay, Miss Charmy, do you read fantasy book?
As a teacher of 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world, I do read fantasy books
Wow.
because yeah, I have the responsibility to provide knowledge to my students and let them visualize or imagine the important happenings in the story. So
True.
the plot of the fantasy stories are very important. The plots, okay. The succeeding information by the plots, like the rising
Action.
action, falling action, those are very important, especially the climax, no. And actually they have the same pattern, almost the same pattern as different fantasy literature, different fantasy novels, short stories, and so. And there are actually many 21st century novels and short stories that provide twists before the falling action. So that's quite interesting for me. And I want to explore those things as well.
Okay, so Miss Charmy, you have said that you have been reading fantasy books. Can you tell us what is the recent book you have been reading?
Oh, actually, the recent books are more, the recent books that I read were more on non-fiction. Okay. But for the fantasy, it's been a long journey for me. It's been how many years that I've been reading a lot of books, from Harry Potter books, Lord of the Rings books. But what I like most are the heroes. Hero type of fantasy genre. Okay. So they are what we call this heroine may not be as good or predictable as what we know, but these heroes and heroines are the creatures that were created by Stan Lee in the Marvel MCUs, okay, Marvel
Hmm.
comics. So those heroes that were created by Stan Lee before, those heroes were the most appealing to the media, to
True.
the mass already
Yeah.
now. Especially
Like
now we have
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
Yes.
No Way Home.
Iron
So
Man.
I've been reading a lot of short stories about uh, Maleficent also, but my favorite really is MCUs, yung Marvel comics. That's my favorite now.
Okay. So
Wow.
let us proceed, ma'am, with our second question. Just like you said earlier, do you like read typical fantasy creatures, or do you wish that fantasy authors would leave dragons and dwarves and everything else out sometimes?
Oh, okay, that's a very good question, no? I like different types of fantasies, like fairy tales and superhero fiction, just like what I mentioned. Because when I was young, I was really trying to understand English. That's, of course, our secondary language, so it's difficult for me to learn English. And by reading a lot of fairy tale books, Cinderella, uh, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, that
Sleeping
made
Beauty.
me aware. Yeah, Sleeping Beauty. That made me aware of this type of literary genre, which is the fairy tale fantasy kind. And because of that, I learned English well. I learned how to speak English, how to read more English books because of the foundation I had when I was still a kid. And yeah,
Wow.
just like what I mentioned, until now, I love watching Maleficent, Mulan, those.
Yes.
While for superhero fictions, my favorites are Marvel Comics and DC movie adaptations. And for dwarfs or dragons, these are actually under the high or epic fantasy. Okay, so when you say high or epic fantasy, these sets its own rules and physical laws. So this subgenre of the fantasy uh, genre have a grand scale, and typically it centers on a single well-developed hero or a band of heroes. Okay, for example, Frodo Baggins and his cohorts in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
So it's quite typical, and it's under the what we call the the first and the primary type of fantasy, okay, which is again what we call uh the epic or the high or epic fantasy.
Yeah. So
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for your answers, Ma'am Charmy. So I will give the floor to J Lord for him to ask more questions.
yes,
Okay.
I also prepared some questions, Miss Charmy. I hope you're okay about that.
Yes, go ahead.
So my first question is, what are the positive or the negative impacts of reading or watching the fantasy genre?
Okay, so when we say positive, as a teacher, I could say that the advantages of reading fantasy genre are first to developing the reading skills, the critical reading skills of my students. Okay, so I always try to tell them to read fantasy literature still, so that I would know if my students are still understanding or trying to grasp the real meaning of the literature. Okay, so nowadays there are so many nonfiction uh, types of books, but
Truth.
I would still want them to have this kind of literature that will make them think a lot and digest, try to analyze on what's happening on the plot and the characters, what are the twists on the characters. That's why, aside from developing critical reading skills, the analysis, which is also part of the higher order thinking skills of the students, can be developed as well. Most especially the creativity and the evaluative skills. Because when you say creativity, the fantasy genre is full of that. Okay, it bags much full creativity, and if the fantasy genre is not creative enough, it's not fantasy anymore.
Truth.
So in that case, the students would also learn how to be creative. They try to go out of their shells, and live out of their cocoons, try to discover a lot of things outside our earth, our own planet, and discover a lot of creatures, a lot of fantasy made creatures by our favorite authors. And because of that, in real life, they will also be able to adapt and apply those creative thinking skills to their own studies and even at work when they're already working.
Yes.
And the last thing is the evaluative skills. So as a critical reader, you have to do self-assessment. If you're the ones who's doing a fantasy type of genre, you can self-assess if what you're doing is good or not. And also, that will take a lot of practice when you are also assessing the types of works of our fantasy authors. So if you're fond of assessing this kind of book, like Lord of the Rings actually uses a lot of what we call the deep language, highfalutin language, which actually are for, people from England, like
Yeah,
Harry
European
Potter,
countries.
European countries, like also like Harry Potter. But Lord of the Rings actually use more highfalutin language, because
Yes.
Harry Potter you can still understand, no? If you're reading it and you're not listening with the accent, no, you can still understand. But when you're reading Lord of the Rings, it's kind of difficult. So this will also help the learners evaluate deeper, evaluate in a critical sense as well.
Wow, that's really, very enlightening because I really love kind of fantasy genre. We're going to learn just the fantasy itself, but also different kind of English
Yeah.
words from other
That's right, J
countries.
Lord. However, there are also negative impacts. Okay,
Mhm.
when a learner is used to reading only fantasy genre, I mean, she's exposed only with this kind of genre and taking much of his or her time reading a lot of fantasy. So the negative impact is that uh, since the this kind of reading or this kind of genre can only transport to the reader's
Imagination.
fantasy, yeah,
Yes.
reader's imagination. That's actually detrimental to coping strategies when problems arise. Okay, so most of
True.
our kids nowadays or youth have a weak grip on reality because they have much exposure on fantasy. You know, just by even I can say that the games nowadays, even they are technological, they are sci-fi, they are also in line with fantasy.
True.
Just doing those games and watching a lot of fantasy movies, this can actually make them weak when the problems arise. So there should be a balance between reading the fantasy genre and also reading nonfiction or academic books and also watching a lot of reality type of movies.
Yes,
Mhm.
po. That's true,
Yes.
po.
And I would like to add with that information, Ms. Charmy. That is true. There
Mhm.
are positive and negative impacts. When it comes to the positive, they actually read more books and help them analyze. Like for example, we have guide questions, right? After this reading article or reading this textbook, okay, you need to answer this one. So they will process or they will understand what is this all about. And the negative impacts, that's correct, Ms. Charmy. Those fantasy, they are very vulnerable when it comes to things happening around them. So identify them as impossible, something like that, or they too imagining things, okay, which is not that good din po. So thank you, Miss Charmy.
That's nice. That's nice, Miss Sydney. Actually, that's true. So let's move to another question because we have a lot of more questions to, discuss. So the next question is, what is the purpose of the fantasy genre, Miss Chance Charmy?
Okay, this fantasy stories may speak to the human condition. Okay, so uh, when the authors actually do the fantasy or the fantastical elements, such as magic, the existence or absence of which can play a large role in stories, prophecies of a chosen one or an impending doom, ancient mythologies from
Wow.
around the globe, reimagined medievalism, okay, and the creation of entirely new worlds, races, and creatures. They actually speak about human conditions, human reality. And while all writing requires imagination, fantasy is a playground for those who want to push their limits. So aside from the stories, may talk about the reality as well and the human conditions, the human attitude towards what's happening around. Okay, these also can push people like you know, future educators, writers, and other people who love to write to push themselves to their limits.
Wow. It's really nice, no, that we have to at least live our reality. Yes, po.
Yes.
Yes, that's true. So the next question will go to Miss Jean.
Okay. So for the
Thank you
next
so much,
question,
Miss Charmy.
Yes. Okay.
You're welcome.
So let's move on to the next question. So, Miss Charmy, what do you think of fantasy stereotypes like cliche? Like, for example, there's an old guy with a white bird and a clock, and oh look, he's carrying a staff. You're a wizard, what? Like that, ma'am. What can you say about that? The stereotypes and cliches about fantasy.
Yes, this stereotypes are the traditional scales of characters, which can be very appealing to the old generation, but not with the 21st century learners.
Yes
Okay.
po.
So the predictable characters are not too enticing to the 21st century learners and readers anymore. Okay, so people appreciate more new characters, except the movie adaptations of old comic books, old novels, and old short stories. So if it's a movie adaptation, of course, people will appreciate if they have read or they know the plot, even the characters of the movies, or even the books or novels, and even the short stories that they have read. They will appreciate more the movie adaptations. But when it comes to stereotypes like a wizard and the description of a wizard or so, these are actually already a traditional type of characters.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And for the next question, what can really annoy you in fantasy books and why?
Well, the same with other books, not only for fantasy books. It really annoys me when the plot is almost the same as the other plots that I have already read. Okay. So when it comes to fantasy books, more often than not, the stories of the fantasy books that are very creative, I like those because if you imagine it's a fantasy genre, so it should be creative. But if the plot or if the sequence uh, is almost the same as the other stories, then it annoys me. So most of the time, I don't read those kinds of fantasy books anymore because you would know, you could predict what will happen at the end of the story. Okay, but the natural is that when I actually studied in PLM, I had this report called the Mythology of Folklore by Vladimir Prop. Okay, so I went to UP and I tried to research about the Mythology of Folklore by Vladimir Prop. He said there that there's actually a pattern when it comes to fantasy genre, and the pattern goes with there will be uh, not a hero but a character who is in pain or having distress, and there will be a hero going to her trying to save her, and because she maybe is depressed, and the hero will make her happy, but then there will be a dragon or another character that will appear that will create conflict between the two, and then the hero will save the girl again, yeah, and after that it will be a happy ending. So it's almost like a pattern. But if you notice, a lot of movie adaptations nowadays, they actually choose the type of masterpiece that are not predictable. Yon. So those kinds of masterpiece are wonderful to the eyes of the readers and the watchers.
I would
Yes,
like also to add po, since that you have mentioned about the book that you have read or the book that you have been reported during your time in PLM. So in our subject also, the popular and contemporary subject, which is the one that that's been making this to us. We have also Tahal About the Monomyth by Johann Campbell. So it also tackles the typical scenarios of how fantasy works in Anjana. So we have the call to adventure, the ordinary world, and so on. So it really is amazing po that somehow you can connect with the other books with this type of, if you're going to create a fantasy book, so you have the outline of how to make. So one of the examples I think that use this kind of story is the Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings. So they have the common, at least somehow, there are the commonalities between them, that they belong first to ordinary world, and somehow they've been called to an adventure, and they have been called to quest. So yeah. More
Yeah.
on
No, just to add to what Miss Charmy said regarding the plots. Because sometimes we were looking for new lessons that we could get from those movies or books. So if those movies has the same lessons or plots, we kind of disappointed, no? Because it's the same as
Yes.
Truth. Like for
Yeah.
example, have you watched the movie Alita?
I think no.
Alita, the girl from, made from like a robot.
Like
She
a
has a
robot,
robot.
yes.
Yes.
AI.
It's like yes, it's like a very, it's something that is refreshing to the eyes of every fantasy genre fans.
Mhm.
So I really find it really interesting. That's it.
That's actually what we call the transformative literature. There's also transformative adaptation. So Alita may be coming from a different story. Okay, so adapted to make it more fun, make it more transformative. Just like what said, it uses technology to entice us because nowadays it's very relevant.
Truth po. So let's proceed na po to the next questioner.
Miss Sid.
Miss Sydney.
Hi. Hi, it's me again. So let's take a look with the second. Okay. So, ma'am. So here's the
Seventh
question. Okay. So, what do you look for in the hero or protagonist character? So, what makes them a good hero character to you?
Okay, so this is a wonderful question. Who thought of this? I thought of Maleficent. Okay, so a heroine may not be as goody and as predictable like what we have learned from our fairy tales. But a hero or a heroine can be a villain turned into a hero or protagonist, like Maleficent. That's why I
Yes.
like the story of Maleficent, because she's not the typical heroine who can save her own town. Okay. However, her character is close to the reality because, like other human beings, she also fell in love, got hurt, betrayed, and took revenge. But at the end of the movie or the story, her heart shows how loving she is. So, again, a hero or heroine may not be as goody or as predictable as what were written before. But now, a hero or heroine can be a villain turned into a hero.
Yes. And I
Wow.
also want to add this one. When we typically, what is a typical hero? A hero can be masculine. Hero is, admired for their achievements, noble qualities, something like that. So, also included from this one, epic fantasy elements, wherein the heroic qualities or the preserving good. So they are recognized heroes first and foremost, and they opt to preserve the good, even it means making great sacrifices. So that's what we call, a great hero. But what you like to said, Miss Charmy, there's a different, up to this one, 21st century, they keep changing what is the definition of a hero. Thank you, Miss Charmy.
That's right.
Okay, so let's take a look with the second question. Okay, this one.
So, a direct quotation often attributed by Einstein. So it says, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. So if you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. So do you agree with that, Miss Charmy?
Yes, I do agree with that. Okay, so intended for children, these fairy tales and folk tales are typically set in distant magical worlds, with beginnings like once upon a time or in a land far, far away. Okay, where trolls, dragons, witches, and other supernatural characters are an accepted truth. Myriad of pupils with English as their secondary language learned how to read and speak English by having fairy tales as their foundation. Aside from that, the Aesop's fables, which were also asked by our teachers to read during our elementary days, were a very good foundation as well, basis for us to learn English. And not only for learning a secondary language, but also to appreciate more literature. And when you're a child and you appreciate literature, you also appreciate humanity in that sense. Because just like what I said, even fantasies like fairy tales have their own root, yung tinatawag na hugot, no?
Yes,
Why do we have Cinderella? Why do we have Snow White? It comes from the reality. Okay, so what's the hurts, the struggles of people? Okay, and yun nga. So I'm so fond of still trying to use fairy tales and folk tales to my students because they love it. Even the senior high school.
yeah,
They
even
still
the
love
grown
this.
ups.
Yeah, even the grown-ups, like you, maybe.
Yes, I really love it, ma'am. Until now,
What's your favorite?
I love
Harry
I love
Potter.
the mixture of the fantasy and the romance, ma'am. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
hopeless romantic, you know.
There are transformative adaptations of the do you know the transformative adaptations of different fairy tales into the
Yes, ma'am.
woods? Have you watched Into the Woods?
Into the Woods.
Pinagsama-sama
Into-
yung fairy tales. Maybe you can also try to check that as well.
we will try to check that out later, ma'am.
That's good.
Okay, so let's proceed for the ninth question. Last two. Can you read this one, Jean?
Okay, ma'am. What can I learn from fantasy?
Mm-hmm. Although some writers juxtapose a real world setting with fantastical elements, many create entirely imaginary universe. Okay? With their own physical laws, logic, and populations of imaginary race and creatures. So through fantasy, our realm of this world will be limitless, and our creativity can be enhanced, which can be used at advertising, right? So when, for example, you're an advertiser and you're asked by your boss to create an advertising, of course, you will use your creativity in order for you to make it more attractive to the viewers, right? So that's one. It can be used for advertising. Your creativity can also be used in publishing. Okay, so if you're going to publish a fantasy genre, then it's gonna be a lot of money for you. And of course, media. In media, not only social media, but perhaps on TV. Okay, they use their creativity. People use their imagination, creativity, in order for the people to get enticed of what they are actually delivering, a program or even a news as well. So these kind of genre is so important that it can't be extinguished. Now it can't be removed from our curriculum, especially the literature curriculum. Most of us are actually trying to read a lot of fictions, not non-fictions, and And the majority or vast part of fictions is fantasy. And aside from that, of course, the lessons learned from fantasy about life of the human population can bring about humanity, as Wonder Woman always mentioned. Right? Remember?
Yes, yes po.
The last episode of Wonder Woman, the last movie of Wonder Woman, she talks about humanity there. And also, the Aesop's fables, we can learn from these animals who portray roles, and we can also learn to take care of them as creations of God, because they are also like people with emotions. They also like people who are feeling the emotions that we have. And through fantasy as well, we can journey through a dark world like the dark fantasy. Okay. And at the same time, feel blissful and feel happy. So the pleasure is there. Okay. So fantasy can gives us pleasure. That's why a lot are being hooked to fantasy literature. Like what you're feeling and experiencing when you watch Alice in Wonderland.
Agree. Thank you, Miss Charmy, for that wonderful insight regarding to what can we learn about fantasy, as especially as an educator students. So we are grateful to have that, Miss Charmy. So for the last question, can you read this one, Hannah? This is the last question. This one. As a teacher, Hannah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, as a teacher and or a professor for almost 7 years, would you recommend reading fantasy books or watching the fantasy as a genre?
I would suggest to read the fantasy books and watch fantasy genre as well. Okay, so I've been mentioning about adaptation, and there are actually different types of adaptation. We have the museum adaptation, which is culturally very similar or close to the novels, to the short stories. When you watch movies that are museum adaptation, you can appreciate the movie more because, wow, this is closest to the book that I read. And you can say that it's good thing that I read the book first before I watched this movie adaptation. That is what we call the museum adaptation. We also have what we call the artful adaptation. When it comes to artful adaptation, there is almost like 3/4 part of the book that are uh, conservative, that are followed by the movie makers, and the other part are more on the artistic side of the movie. Um, and if you're good at looking at that, maybe you can be an artful type of reader. Yeah, or an artful type of a director if you want to direct someday. Okay, so I don't just suggest you watch, but you also read. Another thing is loose adaptation. You may say that, wow, this movie is not really similar to the book that I've read. Okay, so you could be critical in thinking and then trying to realize if this kind of literature or fantasy literature is more close to the one that is in the book. And lastly is the transformative adaptation. So I would actually challenge my students to do transformative adaptation because it's very relevant again, and you can also use your knowledge about technology nowadays. So again, I would recommend you students to read and watch fantasy genre.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ma'am Charmy.
I would like also to add what Miss Charmy have said earlier that about the loose type of
Adaptation.
loose adaptation. So I really believe that because I've also I have also read the Harry Potter series and I have also watched it, and it's not we can tell that it is close but not everything is included in the movie. So yeah, technically they have said that it's because of the time limit that is being given in a movie. So I think it's one of the reasons why not all of the not all in the books are carried out in the movie. And also when it comes to the other thing that it really isn't similar. I have watched the Black Butler. So it's a type of um fantasy anime. So they have live action with that, and it is not really the same. Even the characters, the title is, but when it comes to the plot, the characters, it's not. So I was frustrated at that time because why would they have said that it is a Black Butler when in fact it's not. So I'm really frustrated with that. So thank you po, Miss Charmy, for your wonderful answers for today's podcast.
Just to add with that last question, I'm a type of a person who is love watching than reading. But why what Miss Charmy says, like, I guess I will start reading. But I actually related to what she mentioned, that when it comes to adaptation, because the book He's Into Her, a romance book, a Wattpad.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
recently it has an adaptation, diba? And you
Yes.
would get disappointed because it's different from the book itself.
Yes, you will feel disappointed. And after that, you are going to think of doing your own. It will, make yourself more creative as well. I also had mentioned to Sydney that I was not able to watch Luca yet, the whole story, but I'm also happy that you chose Luca. So, as what I have read about the summary of Luca, so it's a young boy experiencing an unforgettable summer in an Italian Riviera filled with gelato, pasta, and the scooter rides.
Yes.
So, yes. So, this is actually a kind of character that is not similar to what we had before. Okay, so the adventures that Luca had with his newfound best friend, this was all fun, but threatened by a deeply held secret. So, a sea monster from another world below the ocean surface. So, there's still a combination of feeling like a human being and also feeling like someone else in under the sea. And the acceptance of I am not a human being. I'm a combination of both. What can you say about that? That is also something that could make you think that wow, this kind of film is very creative.
Yes, Uma, that's why we chose Luca po.
Yes, actually, it also mentioned the cross-world fantasy, wherein they have involved stories that, from Earth, protagonists from Earth or land, and cross over the fantasy world. So it becomes involved with different adventures as well as the learning while watching this Luca film. That's why we chose Luca film po.
So you like the character and
Yes.
the setting as well?
A lot
Yes,
po.
ma'am.
Love Italian setting.
Also the plot itself po, because it's not really a typical fantasy that you can watch or read. So it really is a combination of something from human and a mermaid or something like that.
Yes, Hannah. So you like the plot as well. Okay.
Yes po.
Yes, yes. It's something that you would like to see, not just like an Aquaman type of movie, right? Because Aquaman is more of a DC type, which actually captures the minds of the young adults. But for Luca, it's a combination of knowing how Luca would feel if he's a real human being or so, and it will depict also the reality of kids having difficulties with their identity, right? So it's not just for young adults. Luca is also for kids and especially teenagers, because teenagers are having difficulties with their sometimes identifying their own identity. Young,
Yes, I agree.
that's the same thing, right?
Yes.
It's very unique.
Okay. So,
So
yes, let's go, Jean.
so that's it. And we're done. We are
Thank you so much,
extremely
ma'am.
grateful
Yes,
to you, Miss Charmy,
yes,
and we're
ma'am.
thankful for the knowledge that you have provided us. And we really acquired a lot from you. And once more, we would like to extend our thanks to you, Mom, and for our thank you for accepting our invitation. We appreciate your time and effort. It really means a lot to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, just one more thing, before we end. I mentioned a while ago that my favorites are like Spider-Man. Since today we're watching, nowadays we're watching Spider-Man No Way Home. My favorite really is Spider-Man 2 because this is the adaptation of the Marvel comics that talks about the human emotions and struggle of a hero. If you notice, the Spider-Man 2 has love story of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, who is typical of
Yes.
young adults, and it's very similar to what you as teenagers are experiencing as well as Peter's hurts and so on. So it's somehow relative to me as a teacher because when I wake up in the morning, I would always think of how can I help my students and how can I help you, especially those who are not my students, who I'm just seeing right now, to realize a lot of things, saving souls. Like especially you future teachers, you are going to save souls, not only minds. No, and at the end of the day, I would also ask God, I'm done for today, Lord. Tomorrow is another day, so let's do this. So I'm always telling that before I get to sleep. And I think that is also the role of future teachers like you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Wow.
you so much, ma'am. We
Thank you
really
so
love
much.
teaching kids.
Yes. And thank you for accepting this invitation, Mom, even though it's a short notice. So, thank you so much, Miss
You're
Charmy.
welcome.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Yes, for lending your time. Even if you have
Thank you
class
so
today
much.
po.
And
Ma'am,
congratulations to your wedding last year.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, yes, Hannah.
Ma'am, before we end, can we take a picture
Yes.
first?
Okay.
Wait.
Absolutely.
So we can, yes.
This one.
Yeah. So at least Sydney, can you
Okay, okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Again. 1, 2, 3, smile. One again. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you so much, Miss Charmy.
Thank you,
Thank
You're
ma'am.
welcome.
Have a
thank
great
you
day
po.
po.
Thank
Stay
you,
You
Miss.
safe
too.
Stay
Thank
safe,
you,
and
Miss
God
Bye,
ma'am.
Charmy.
bless you, ma.
everyone.
Thank you
Bless
so much, Miss
everyone.
Charmy. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you po.
Bye po.
Keep safe.